to the No Cams Podcast. I'm Sunny G.
I'm Akash.
I'm Jason. And here on the No Cams Podcast, we discuss movies, television, and a variety of other extremely interesting topics.
Extremely.
Very interesting topics. And one of those topics we'll be discussing today is Jumanji. The original Jumanji that came out in 1995, and then the new Jumanji that came out this last year, Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle. And this is going to be part of our Reboots and Remakes series. And I really want to kick it off. I guess we can really start this by talking about Jumanji first and just general thoughts. So what did you guys think about the original Jumanji?
I mean, owned it on VHS.
Okay.
So, I'm old school. Yeah. Right, super old school.
Yeah.
You watch that movie all the fucking time when I was a kid. The movie's great. Still holds up.
Did you have just the paper sleeve, or did you have the full plastic?
The full plastic
case? Yeah. Okay. All right.
You fuck around, but not with my Jumanji.
Not in the Jumanji.
Okay. Jumanji, Lion King, Aladdin had all those on the plastic.
Yeah, this isn't
sleeves,
Ferngully. This is Jumanji.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Precisely.
Yeah, I too have seen it multiple times. Caught it every time it would come on TBS or TNT, whatever, because that would show it all the time. Like Sonny said, man, I have nothing more to add to what he said. Great freaking movie, still holds up. So much fun. Love that whole universe and the fantastical parts of it. How it just, the board game comes into your reality and you can get pulled into it and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way, guys. I was blown away. I remember seeing it in theaters and just being blown away. Going back and watching it again, you think it's kind of a intense movie, and it's Sonny even said it's really a horror movie than it is like a fun movie. It is right. Kind of a horror movie, definitely. But it didn't feel like that way when we were a kid. And I feel movies back when we were a little bit younger were a little bit more intense, anyways. Like even directed towards kids was more intense. I mean, they talk about death and all kinds of stuff in this movie. But yeah, I loved it, and I really want to talk about, or the first thing I want to talk about this movie is the graphics or the CG. Like that 1990s, mid-90s graphics. And I remember watching that movie and really being blown away by it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looked awesome, remember? And the stampede looked really sick, and the bird flying away, like it all looked so real, and the monkeys. But you go back now, what do you think now?
Getting sucked into the game looked good.
Yeah. Actually, that kind of helped. To me, that kind of holds up still. Yeah. When it's getting sucked in. But what do you guys think of the graphics, or whatever you want to call it overall?
No, I just rewatched this today for the podcast, and I agree with you, Jason. Like the CG, it holds up for me. I think it's because it's not so heavy-handed. They use a lot of practical effects as well as CG, because I'm pretty sure that they pair in like a fake, like a puppet lion.
Yeah.
As long as they
and a puppet bird
and a pelican,
puppet bird and like a puppet crocodile and things like that.
A lot of the plane stuff. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
A lot of practice.
Yeah, and they don't leave the CG on the screen for a long time, which is a real benefit. I think it's only for those real quick cutting action scenes, and they use a lot of practical effects, which really helps sell those scenes. And
Yeah, I think the only thing that doesn't hold up really is the monkeys. The monkeys are not, because they had to be a little bit more detailed. Like they were actually doing stuff, interacting with items and things, like they were driving cars. That CG still wasn't quite there. It blew me away at the time. Actually, I remember my sister had a teacher, and somehow he had my sister write a little article in some little tiny paper that you would pick up like for 10 cents when you would leave Kroger, those ones like by the door. Mm-hmm. And it was about the IMAX special effects. I think the IMAX was called special effects, but it really showed how they did behind the scenes of like special effects, and they did like Independence Day. They did Kazam, because how awesome that movie is, full of effects. And they showed Kazam. And they also showed this movie. And it was just like really cool. Like I remember how like groundbreaking it was at the time. So even though they haven't really aged that well, it's like I guess you can't really expect effects to age gracefully, especially 20 years later.
Especially with resolutions at what they're at now. It's just very easy to nitpick, and it doesn't look as good when you upscale all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, but then you go back and look at like 80s effects. You're like, wow, the jump is bigger from 85 to 95 versus like 95 to like 2015.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
All right, so I mean, beyond just the effects, Sonny and I were watching this movie and just pointed out some like fun little flaws. I mean, truthfully, we love this movie, so there's not going to be a whole lot of like negatives that we can pull away. And I think part of the reason we all love this movie is some nostalgia. But what's fun going back and watching these movies and noticing versus from when you were a kid are all the little details in the movie that maybe don't quite add up, that don't ultimately matter, but are just kind of like fun to pick at. And a couple of them that Sonny and I were talking about. First off was the Hunter. Remember the Hunter? He comes out, Van Pelt. That was his name. The character's name was Van Pelt. Awesome name. Him being his father, it kind of had to be his dad, right?
Yeah.
It would have you played by his dad.
Right.
And him chasing down Alan was also like a parallel to when he was a kid, being like chased down by those bullies. And his dad was telling him to come, you got to face him like a man, face him like a man. So the Van Pelt was telling him to face him like a man.
Mm-hmm.
But Van Pelt has a fucking gun. And so he's telling Alan, hey,
face me like a man.
Face me like a man. Like, dude, they're calling him a pussy for running away from a gun. And he's just like, no, stand still so I can kill you. The whole movie, he's determined to kill Alan. And then at the very end of the movie, he's finally got Alan in the room. And Alan's holding onto the dice for that final roll. And he's got him. He's like, all right, start running. And you're like, wait a minute. The whole movie, he's been running. And he's like, come face me like a man. Now he's staring at your face. And you're like, all right, move it.
Got to run it.
Yeah, there's no fucking sense. Another thing that I really love about the movie.
Wait, is this a nitpick as well, or is this something you love?
I'm trying to remember the nitpick. I'm trying to remember what I said before. We said before the.
Well, can we talk about another nitpick I have? Is the concept of time in this movie.
Okay.
Once Robin Williams' character finishes Jumanji, they both go back in time to the same moment as right before he gets sucked into the game, right?
Yeah.
And then the future goes on, and all these series of events happens to where they meet Kristen Dunst and her brother again. But like, in what time? Like, okay, so let me rephrase. Hold up. In what adaptation of time travel as we understand it today could that happen? Could those children be born again? Isn't like the butterfly effect not allow that to happen? Because Robin Williams disappeared and all these events happen, probably led to those kids being born and then them meeting and all that stuff, right? That completely gets thrown out the window.
I think it obeys more like a multiverse rule set, where any potential universe that could exist based on just the infinite variations in people's choices. There exists one universe in which almost everything is the same, except for the fact that you didn't grow up in Jumanji.
Okay. I guess
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. Very intense. Yeah.
Very intense way of saying that it works exactly the way it was presented. Where if you beat the game, you go back to when you started the game, and I guess most everything else is going to pan out exactly the same, except for what has to do with you and yours.
So on that kid note, do you think that they recognized Alan and Sarah at the end?
So it's interesting. Like, I always grew up implicitly assuming, that they somehow understood, like remembered Alan and whatever her name, Bonnie Hunt, Sarah, from their dreams or something like that, and that's how they recognized them. But we're watching it more intensely and not making that assumption, they do kind of leave it ambiguous. Like the little kid, Peter, looks up at his dad, like when they're talking to him, as if like he's like uncomfortable with talking to this stranger and stuff. So
Peter has no clue. That's my.
Yeah, I don't think
Peter's
that.
clueless.
Okay, but
Kristen Dunst has like a twinkle in her eye that she might know,
right?
But like,
that
is what we don't know. But
only because her character's a liar. That's why. The only reason why you have any doubt is because she's like a compulsive liar in the movie.
Yeah.
She's really good at like playing on the spot. So you're like, maybe, but I don't think so, man. And I also think maybe she died at the end of the movie too, or she died at the end of Jumanji.
Who?
Okay.
Kristen Dunst.
Wait,
yeah.
Why?
Judy, because she gets shot by barbs like in her neck, and she's just like slowly fading. She's like, oh, I wish mom and dad were here. And I don't know. I think she might have.
I think the way the game works, it's kind of like the Black Mirror technology where you put that thing on your head and you get like, the cookie, right? So I think it kind of works like that, where you play the game And the game, everything, once you've beaten the game, reverts back to precisely when the game started. So it's like no time in the real world, in the world in which you've beaten the game, has actually passed.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
it was like 5 minutes when they came back,
Right.
and then his dad comes back. He's like, "Oh, I only left 5 minutes ago."
Right.
And he already left, and he packed up his shit. So it was like an instantaneous.
Yeah. Exactly. So the fact that like that Kristen Dunst and Peter like eventually exist, I feel like it's only at the time when they would have met in the parallel universe, only after which could someone have any notion that they were ever involved in Jumanji in the first place.
Dude.
So like,
It's just the Back to the Future rule. Okay, he goes back and things are better after he changed
And
things.
that's
And things are pretty much the whole world is the same except his life
Yeah,
is better.
except for that
So
one
that's
portion.
kinda
Okay.
what happened.
Yeah.
there we go. Yeah.
That's what happened.
Back to the Future.
It's a simple
rules.
version of a time travel story for kids, essentially. Like,
Yeah.
we fix the one problem, solves all of our personal issues.
Yeah. basically. We were also talking about, he rolls in his first roll, Alan's first roll.
Mhm.
He gets sucked into the game,
Mhm.
and in the jungle, he must wait until the dice reach 5 or 8.
Yeah.
Right.
So Sonny and I were asking, there's 2 players. One gets sucked into the jungle. Can he roll now? If it's his turn to progress the game, can he roll?
That's a very good question.
See, but the answer has to be yes.
That's what you say, but it's because Sonny thinks that dice will just appear in your hands in the jungle.
Yeah.
So,
I
ready to
can see
go.
that happening too. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no clear rules to this universe. So-
But the point is, one way or another, you have to be able to roll, right?
Yeah.
It should be.
Exactly. Because otherwise the game comes to a standstill, and no game would be written in a way that like the game can't.
That's Jumanji, dude. This is not any game. This is Jumanji.
Whatever.
Jumanji is the worst nightmare for a child. Like,
Yeah.
For
it's
real.
the worst nightmare. I would
And-
hate that.
And Sonny brought up a good point. He's like, why does everyone just try to bury or toss Jumanji, and no one has decided to destroy the game until
it's
the
indestructible,
new
too.
movie?
It's like the One Ring. You have to take it to Mordor and drop it into the fires. It can't be destroyed by our medieval weapons and our. It's not happening. I want to segue a little bit into Kristen Dunst, dude. I kind of understand how she made it in Hollywood. Her performance is great.
Yeah,
I
she was
really enjoyed
good.
the scenes where she was lying about her parents' death. The real estate agent, and that was so good, dude.
Yeah.
She did a great job in this movie, and really, I guess, kicked off her career in Hollywood with it.
There's some really good actors in this movie. I mean, Robin Williams, which he's not like a typical funny Robin Williams, but I kind of like the little bit more serious Robin Williams. David Allen Greer is hilarious in this movie, man. As Carl, he's fucking hilarious. He has all the funny lines and funny moments and crazy faces. I absolutely love that guy, man. Yeah, and you're right, man. Kirsten Dunst was good. I think she was the best character of the story.
This is also like one of the first Robin Williams movies I've watched since his passing. So it was like I had forgotten how good it was, man.
Yeah.
And
It's also really brutal, right? Like,
oh yeah,
for being a kids movie, they really dive into these women. Like, Sarah is fucked up. She becomes a
poison
psychic.
darted. Yeah.
No, not poison. Not Sarah.
Oh, not Sarah. Yeah. Sorry.
She spent 26 years like completely messed up, like
Getting therapy and shit.
Yeah.
Like, dude, holy shit. It just felt like, I don't want to compare it to the new movie yet, but the stakes just felt higher in this movie.
Yeah.
It just felt more like life or death. Like, you can't make a mistake at all. Like, you don't have the opportunity to have 3 lives. You just have one. And
well, the difference of this movie, not to already start comparing, but they're in like confined space. They have like someone comes out of the jungle, now it's in your house, and I think that's a little bit scarier than or like in the second movie, they're in the jungle, they can like run away or fight it off somehow, but there's a fucking stampede comes right through your library wall. That makes it feel more imminent. You're like trapped inside your house.
Yeah, I love how they meshed both, that you could go into Jumanji and Jumanji comes to your world as well. And that's what makes it even more scary, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great movie. I think we've all said it. We've all watched it a bunch of times.
Yeah.
I know I'm going to watch it a bunch more times. So I guess we can kind of move on to Welcome to the Jungle. And I want to start by saying I saw this movie in theaters and I really, really liked it. And I told you guys immediately after like how much I actually enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of, I didn't know if I just enjoyed it because I kind of like dumb movies sometimes. So I was afraid that me being like overly hyped or praising it too much. But then after at least hearing Sonny say that he enjoyed it so much was like a good confirmation that it is really, really funny.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of the funnier movies I've seen, at least in recent history. I laughed a lot in the movie, a lot. And it wasn't just cheap, stupid laughs. Like they were like good laughs, good story, good characters. And I think just overall like good performances, surprising performances from guys like The Rock. And yeah, I mean, I really liked it. So I want to hear you guys' thoughts.
Yeah, dude, I fucking love this movie. I really enjoyed it. It was such a fun time. I was laughing out loud in the theater watching this movie. Like you said, man, when this movie was like during the funny moments, it killed it. It was extremely funny. I have some nitpicks that we can talk about a little bit later, but this was a lot more of a children's movie than the original Jumanji.
You think so?
Yeah, dude. There's so many. The movie
Yeah,
me, like stops a lot and deliver these messages about like, I don't know what they were talking about. They were saying like
like
self-belief, confidence, like bullying. Yeah, like talk to the giving young men and young women advice on how to talk to the opposite sex or whatever, whoever you're attracted to. It just felt like more of a movie directed towards kids, but there's something there for the parents who are taking kids to go watch this too. So it's like a perfect movie for a large group of people, or a large audience of different ages and genders, I guess. I don't know.
Well, yeah, because it's adults acting, but acting as kids. So it's like kid sensibility with adult actors. Yeah.
No, and I thought so I loved it, and I loved the video game elements to the whole world. Like when they first get there, they're learning what their lives mean. They learn that they all have powers. They run into NPCs who are like on a very straightforward path, so you have to just kind of ask the right questions. Yeah, right.
Brilliant. Or he just repeat himself. Nigel, he just repeat himself.
And then just how they're all OP'd in their own ways, right?
Yeah.
You just have to like get comfortable with yourself and with your powers and to just use them to great effect. Like it played out exactly how you getting sucked into a video game play out. And I love that aspect.
I have some okay, let's get into some of the nitpicks here. Cause like I have issues with some of the, what do they call that? Each character had a set of skills and weaknesses.
Yeah.
Like I felt like some of the weaknesses were just there for comedic effect and,
like the cake?
Yeah, like in an actual game, like those things have meaning and purpose, right? And they come back and useful for other portions of the game. But the cake part was just for one scene to make us laugh, and that was it. And to me, that felt like outside the realm of an actual game. Like it tried to break the rules in certain spots. Like going back to the NPCs, like was the main bad guy an NPC, or did he have like free will and free thought? Like what was that?
No, I think he's an NPC. Yeah.
I felt like it kept going back and forth with that.
I was hoping they would reveal him to be like a person. Like
a person or something.
Yeah.
Because I think there are cutscenes. They kind of established that they're cutscenes because I remember in the first one, they're all like, "Oh, whoa, did you see that?" Like they can all acknowledge that they are seeing like the bad guy in some form. So I assume he was like an NPC because it was just like when you play a game. Yeah, you see, they have like cutscenes of what's going on. And I think that's what we were seeing.
We were watching a video game.
No,
I think so.
They specifically mentioned this is a cutscene. Like as the guy in the car is driving the characters around, he's like, "This is a cutscene," and then The Rock gives a little bit of dialogue of what a cutscene is and how they're in all these games and stuff.
Okay, gotcha.
But like my issue also was like I felt like the movie used video game mechanics, and when I say video game mechanics, I mean like archaic. Like 1990s video game mechanics for when it was convenient to move the story along, and then sometimes it wouldn't apply the rules it wasn't consistent in applying those mechanics throughout the whole story.
I do think that they did a good job tying it into the first movie. It's not a remake per se, right? It's kind of a sequel. Well, the opening shot is the old Jumanji board. So it is kind of a sequel already, and the board kind of becomes, instead of the when he opens the box, it's a video game.
Mhm.
Yeah. When I first saw that, I kind of rolled my eyes a little bit, but then as the movie went on, I kind of just accepted it, and I was like, okay, that's fine. It's like part of the universe. It's like what it's developing as its lore or whatever. But immediately when I saw it, my immediate reaction was like, ugh, I rolled, like, this is so dumb. Um, they could have thought there could have been a better way to merge the universes, but then I realized that's not important. That's not what the story is
Yeah.
going for. Yeah.
I think it was a good nod to show you like this is the same. This is the
Right.
same jungle,
Mhm.
because then later when we see that Jonas brother, I forget what his character's name. But we see the Jonas brother in the jungle.
Pilot.
Remember
Pilot something.
Yeah, he's a pilot. Yeah, remember we see him at the little shack, and there's Alan's name on there. Like they reference that Alan had been there. So
Mhm.
I think it was just a way to show that it was all connected. But I thought they did a good job with that,
Mhm.
and it felt very much in the spirit without being the same.
It wasn't, bludgeoning you over the head with it. It was just like, nope, this is all part of the same thing, and we're not going to make our story have to really have anything to do with it.
Mm-hmm. I think the one reason I love this movie so much is the characters, and it's the avatars and the idea of avatars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's just a brilliant way of getting you pulled in, and just perfect comedic fodder. And Kevin Hart's going to be in there, so you're going to get a bunch of "I'm short" jokes. Hey, I'm short. I'm short. Hey, look at me. I'm short. You're going to get a ton of those jokes. So I think Jack Black stole the show.
Mm.
I think his performance was really, really good, and it's going to be one of those underrated performances because it's kind of a funny comedy that he's doing this in.
Mm-hmm.
But his way of portraying like a 16-year-old girl in a man's body was so good. It was so fucking. It was subtle. And it was hilarious.
I don't agree. I don't think it was subtle. I think like his expectations were too much. Like, okay, say Sonny or I, if I were to jump into a female's body, my pitch wouldn't change. Like her voice wouldn't sound lower because my mind is in her body, controlling her body. She would talk exactly like how a girl talks with, okay, whatever, predisposition,
I get
whatever
it.
a girl sounds like. Like, because a female's embodying Jack Black's voice, he doesn't have to talk like, oh my God, la, 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 the whole time. He can talk like Jack Black, but have the same vocabulary and discussion that her avatar has, or her player has. Do you know what I mean?
No, see, here's the thing. You're right and you're wrong. You're right
wrong.
because that's how it works, but you're wrong when you think that she doesn't actually talk with that chick voice, right?
Interesting.
She's like, oh my God, like,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If she was talking normally, like she talks the way she talks at the end of the movie, right? When they're all just buds, like, yeah, I'm gonna go camping, bro.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty good impersonation, right?
Spot on, yeah. Spot on.
Do you agree with that, Jason, or do you guys
Not really.
get my point?
I get your point.
I get your point, but what's to say that like right when she got there, she started talking. She's like, "Oh, this is a manly," and she identifies so much as a young girl that she has to feminize the voice to just match who she is inside. So I think that was a personal choice by the character. So I don't hold that against Jack Black at all. I think that was a good move.
I'm inclined to agree with Jason just in general because I also agree that Jack Black's his portrayal was a lot more muted than like I would have assumed Jack Black would do. Just because he's like that kind of he's the kind of actor that would just overdo it.
Yeah, when you hear a movie with Jack Black being a 16-year-old girl in the body of a 16-year-old girl,
yeah,
what you think is not what you're gonna get.
Yeah, what you think is like Rob Schneider from The Hot Chick.
Yeah,
16-year-old girl. Yeah.
I don't know, guys. Like, we're gonna have to agree to disagree on this. I think his
Sure.
performance is great. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from him, but I think it could have been more nuanced and not been so obtuse and blunt. I mean, I don't know. It just seemed.
Well, he played the sweet
It could
moments.
have been done more masterfully, but that's just my opinion.
I think he did like the sweet moments really well too.
I agree.
In that personality,
I think the dialogue was perfect. I will say some of the like social media jokes felt a little dated. It felt like they're just catching up to some of the social media jokes. It felt like a movie that would have better fit if it came out maybe 2 years ago, in terms of those jokes. But yeah.
The jokes that felt really forced to me were when they reunited with Pilot or whatever his name was.
Mm-hmm.
And they're talking and they're having a normal conversation with him, and then suddenly, like, they want to reveal to the audience that he's been in this place for forever,
Mm-hmm.
and he's cracking all these like really
90s
reference, like hardcore, like 90, like everything he's saying is a 90s reference, and people just don't talk like that. But I thought that was like
even in the 90s they didn't talk like that.
I felt like also that was one of the worst moments to drop that bomb on that guy.
Mm-hmm.
A critical mission. Let's fuck this guy's brain up right now.
Yeah.
Tell him, like, something that's gonna just demolish him completely.
I thought it was interesting, like the whole commentary on like how many lives you get.
Yeah, that was cool.
Both, yeah, in general, because you only get one life, right? So you should like live it and max it out. But also because when you're playing a video game, shit does get amped up when you get to that last life, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're pretty willy-nilly up until that last life.
Yeah, I like that a lot too.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
And they did a good job like connecting the two movies in that there's like a helper from that world to our characters. So you had Robin Williams pop out of the board game Jumanji, and then you had these guys reconnecting with the Jonas Brother in this movie. So they had like the insider.
I forget he's a Jonas Brother.
Right, he's a Jonas Brother, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, all in all, this movie, yeah, it's definitely a comedy, way more than the original, which is borderline horror. Like, yeah, torture porn.
They're just like, right, yeah. But I thought they had, again, I think the characters had pretty like nice arcs.
Mm-hmm.
I think they changed nicely throughout the movie, and I like that. I don't know. I kind of expected when they met up with the Jonas Brother that the girl was gonna get with him when they come back, and it was, somehow he was gonna come back with them. Mm-hmm. And I like how they kind of just nipped that in the bud, and just like that.
And it wasn't like creepy or weird or anything.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
it wasn't. Mm-hmm. And it was like that prissy girl.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't like necessarily get what she really wants at the end.
Right.
She kind of changed. It's kind of like off color kind of.
I really like that because the obvious thing would be to give her a happy ending and she'd be with a guy when she can. But I mean, as soon as you know,
but she got her a happy ending, right? Because he names his daughter after her.
She does. Right?
Which I thought was pretty badass.
Yeah, did you like that moment? That worked for you?
Yeah.
Well, because she sacrificed her life for him. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Right. He was 0 life.
Yeah. Who do you think did the best portrayal of the kid, of the 4 actors, of Dwayne Johnson, Jack Black, Kevin Hart?
Yeah, I thought Ruby Roundhouse did.
Yeah.
I really like her character, and I thought, I thought like the actress did not only a great job playing the teenager she was portraying, but also in general playing like a shy teenager who doesn't know how good looking they are.
Yeah.
I thought that was great.
I agree.
The scene when she's learning how to like strut, when Jack Black's teaching her how to strut, I thought that was hilarious. That whole sequence was funny to me.
No, but then her strength is dance fighting, which is so good, right? The minute the music came on, like that switch in her brain clicked, right? And so all of a sudden she knew exactly what buttons to press just to make her character kick ass. Yeah.
So for me, the ending of the movie kind of pissed me off until I rewatched Jumanji and I remembered that's the exact way it ended as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
So then I was not like post watching Jumanji, I'm okay with the ending. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like seeing what's that? Tom Hanks' son. What's the guy's name?
Mm-hmm. Colin Hanks.
Yeah. So here's the interesting part, right? The kids in Welcome to the Jungle were born after the game started, right? So when time caught up to them, they exit the game when they entered it. But everything that happened in the game prior got reversed within their own timeline just before it gets to them exiting the game.
Wait, what?
Sorry. All that to say, if these kids remember Colin Hanks, then I'm pretty sure Kirsten Dunst and her brother remember Robin Williams.
No, because they're the players. It's all from the perspective of the players of the game.
They were also players.
Yeah, but
these kids were also players.
They just piggybacked on Alan and Sarah's game. It wasn't really their game.
Yeah, this is like a different version, right?
These kids it's not their game either. It's the pilot's game.
That's true. It's a pilot's game.
Oh, that's right.
That's the point I'm trying to make, right? Colin Hanks is Robin Williams and Bonnie Hunt, and these kids are Kirsten Dunst and Peter, right? So if these kids remember him,
that's solid. That's solid logic.
Confirm.
I don't want to believe
that is Jumanji time travel.
I don't want to believe it.
Well, that's just how it works, dude. You don't have to believe it.
Jumanji time travel is the best kind of time travel. There's no
right?
consequences.
Yeah.
There's only good endings. Like
unless you die, which luckily you haven't seen, right? That would be a super dark Jumanji that they should make.
If this is like any other time travel movie, like after Robin Williams goes back into the game, Kristen Dunst would have showed up at the Christmas party in a wheelchair, and her brother would have died like 3 years before that. Like, would have never made it or something like that. It would have just been totally dark, or she might have one eye or something crazy.
I never really thought of Jumanjis as time travel movies. But they were just board game movies.
Yeah.
It's like forced time travel, though. It's like someone kicks you into the future.
Right.
Or kicks you into an alternate universe.
How did you guys feel about the game adapting itself into the 21st century?
When I first heard it, I didn't like the idea of it, but they did a good job.
It's just a metaphor for Hollywood. Just having to catch up to Reboot, right? If Jumanji wants to stay alive, it has to evolve. And if Hollywood wants to stay alive, their movies have to evolve as well, you know?
Well, and they had the golden rule of Hollywood, just throw the rock in there.
Right? Throw the rock in Kevin Hart. You got the
Kevin.
action hunk, you got the comedy hunk, and you get to go, dude. Yeah. Got a movie.
I mean, they have a franchise here on their hand. How do you think they're going to start? I mean, how will they lead into the next Jumanji now?
Wait, they're not doing more, are they?
They have to. I mean, what do you mean?
They have to, right? This movie was so successful.
Yeah, but this was great on its own. It should stay one movie.
Jason, come on, man. We're talking about Hollywood. We're talking about money here. Like, I was thinking that they'd leave some sort of Easter egg for this to directly transition to the Jumanji,
Return to the Jungle.
Return to the Jungle or something.
Rumble in the Jungle.
There's easily a franchise here. I mean, the fact that they showed this board game morphing into a video game just already sets it up to like do whatever they want with the franchise. Like, there's no boundaries or rules really, other than this game exists in this world and it's like an extremely magical force and it can create or do whatever it wants.
They destroyed it though, right?
Yeah. They take a bowling ball to it and they destroy it. Unlike literally every other owner of the Jumanji game, who's just like, man, this game almost ruined my life. Let me put it in this obscure place for somebody else to find later, right? Instead of just manning up and destroying it.
But see, the actual board game itself is still out there. Like, it just generated a digital version of itself.
No. I think it actually morphed itself.
So
like the guy brought home the board game and he woke up with a console, like a shitty game. What is it?
Like a Nintendo, like a SNES.
No, what's the one from Malibu's Most Wanted? Gamecast.
Yeah.
He woke up with a Gamecast with one game on it.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess they might have effectively decided not to leave any openings for a third movie.
No, they are. I think they're looking into it.
Is that what you reading?
Yeah, possibly opening up against Star Wars 9.
What?
A what?
Yeah, 2 years from now.
So, okay, would you rather see Jumanji that weekend or Star Wars that weekend?
Jumanji.
Fuck
Star Wars.
I might just watch Star Wars just because it's Star Wars.
Yeah.
Though I'm not a huge fan.
So, anything else to add on those movies, guys?
No, I just love what the Rock and Kevin Hart are doing.
Yeah.
Central Intelligence, I thought was good. Not as good as this one, but it was good.
They have good chemistry.
Were they in any other movies together? Is this just the second one?
Nothing I'm aware of.
Well, regardless, Kevin Hart in movies is great, and he's still blowing up. I think he's still got a lot of good movies ahead of him. And The Rock, he still hasn't gotten old yet. So I think he's got way more movies ahead.
How has he gotten more jacked the older he's gotten? How is that possible? How is he bigger now as an actor than he was as a professional wrestler?
I mean, steroids? I don't know. I mean, that's the obvious answer.
No, dude, no. The future president did not take steroids. Which one of these Jumanjis did you guys like better?
That's a good question. it's hard to like not speak from a place of nostalgia, but like a
Yeah.
movie as a whole, I liked the original better, just because I felt like there's certain portions in the new Jumanji where it really just stops the story to deliver like a heartfelt message, and it really took me out of the movie when I was watching it, and I didn't have any of those moments when I was watching the real Jumanji. I feel like
Mhm.
it's paced better, it just flows a lot better, and it's not trying to give you a higher message or like help your self-esteem out, as the movie's going through. I think it's a better constructed movie, and it might not be as funny, but I think they're two different films anyway, so you can't
Yeah.
really compare that.
Yeah, I can't really compare them. I like them both for their own reasons. Like the original for nostalgia and because of its more serious take on that kind of lore. But the second one for just being a good reboot, for being a funny, solid movie that wasn't like too corny or cheesy in its humor, and had at least a little bit of emotional weight to it. Which is more than you could say for a lot of these other movies that try to bring it and like film it.
No, I have to agree with what you said, Sonny. Like spot on. Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. So you could do it again. That was
Trying to
really
be
good.
original, Jason. God.
I mean, yeah, if I want to laugh, I'm gonna put on the
Yeah, I
for
agree.
the jungle. All right. Anything else, guys? No.
No.
All right. We'll wrap it up. I guess that's all we got this week. Thanks for listening. Nakash, do you want to do all the plugs?
Outro?
Yeah, sure. Send us an email at nocampspodcast@gmail.com. Sorry, nocampspod@gmail.com. We're on nocampspodcast.podbean.com. That's where you can find our podcast. And Twitter at nocampspodcast. All right, guys. Thanks for listening in. We'll see you guys next time.
Peace.
Bye.